Hello my friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is your host Gurunatha Dogi from onlinebuff.com, and in this step-by-step tutorial video we are going to discuss and we are going to talk about C# access modifiers with their different types of access modifier. Yes my friends, today in this tutorial video we are going to discuss about access modifiers, how they provide the accessibility to the member, to the type, to the class and to the property. And with each access modifier how they behave differently, we are going to see that behavior with an example step by step. So hey friends, before we jump and get started with this tutorial video, do not forget to subscribe to my channel if you have not yet subscribed yet, and hit on the bell icon to stay updated with my latest updated videos. And your one vote, your one like keeps me motivated to upload this kind of tutorial videos. So friends, let's get started straight away to the tutorial now. So what are the access modifiers? So friends, before we jump and start implementing a program with access modifier, let's understand what are the access modifiers. So access modifiers, my friends, they are nothing but they are the keywords. They are the keywords which help us to define the accessibility for a class, a type, a member, property and data type. Yes friends, these are the keywords which help us to define the accessibility to the class, to the type, to the member or a property or a data type. Yes, and using this accessibility feature you can do the hide and display kind of feature in your program. So what I mean by that, let's suppose if you want to encapsulate certain features in your class or in your program, then you can achieve via the access modifier. And if you want to display the certain functions, certain methods to the outside the world, outside the scope of the class or to the other developers or outside the assembly, then you can achieve via the access modifiers only. So these are the access modifiers which help us to define the accessibility for a class, for a type, for a member, for a property or a data type. Yes, for example, let's suppose for example, if you want to display your date of birth only to the family member, then you can achieve that thing only via access modifier. Let's suppose if you want to display your date of birth to the everyone, like a public, if you want to showcase to everyone, then you can achieve that thing also via access modifiers only. So access modifiers nothing but they are the accessibility keywords, which help us to define the accessibility feature in a program. Yes, if you want to do the hide and display kind of feature, if you want a certain methods to hide or certain methods to display, then you can achieve only via the access modifiers keywords. Now that you are understood what are the access modifiers, on what function, what role they play in the program, let's understand what are the types of access modifiers available in the C# program. So basically there are four types of access modifiers and two combination access modifiers. Let me just tell you. First one comes is public, private, protected and internal. Now combination access modifiers, that is protected internal and private protected. So these are the access modifiers in the C# available in the C# program. So basically we have the 6 access modifiers. One is public, private, protected, internal and combination access modifiers such as protected internal and private protected. So friends, now let's get start implementing this each and every access modifier in a practical way and understand also in the practical way only. Okay, so I will tell you theoretical also what is the definition of using the public access modifier, private and protected, and same way we will do the practical implementation also via using this access modifiers. So friends, let's get started straight away to the console application program. As you can see, I have written the console application program here. So let's get started with the program now with each access modifier. Okay. So friends, let's start our program with the first access modifier, that is the private access modifier. So I'm going to start with my private access modifier now. So in order to declare a private access modifier, we need to use the keyword as private only. Okay. So let's start a program now and implement the private access modifier. Let's see how it goes. So we are going to declare a private method here. So for that, let me just create a class here, public class employee. Yes, my friends, this is again a access modifier only. Now here I am going to declare a private method, private void display employee details. So this is my simple method where I am going to do a display here using the console dot write line. Okay, and so this is my simple method display employee details where I have declared, where I made this method as private here. Now as access modifier accessibility says that this keyword methods are only accessible only within the scope of this class. Let's check that, whether we are able to access this method in the same scope of the class or not. Okay, so if I say void method call and using this keyword, see, yes friends, I am able to call this private method in the same scope of the class. Okay, so it is hence proved that if we use the private methods, okay, then we can call those private methods only within the scope of the class. So it is proved. Okay, now let's check whether we can able to call the private methods outside the scope of the class or not. So for that, let me declare an object here. I have written a class program here with the static output. So let me just check whether we can able to access this private method outside the scope of the class or not. So for that, let me just create the object of employee here. Employee obj emp equal to new employee obj emp dot see friends, we are not able to access the methods which are declared private outside the scope of the class. Okay, so now for your reference, I will just make this as public here, and let me just show you whether we can access or not. As you can see here, we can able to access our public defined methods. Yes. Okay, so let me just make it private again. So friends, hence proved that private access modifier are accessible only within the body scope of a class. Okay, now let's jump to the second access modifier, that is the public access modifier, my friends. So let's start with the public access modifier. So public access modifier can be declared using the public keyword, and these access modifier are accessible anywhere in the program. Okay, in the same assembly also we can able to access the public methods and public functions, and in the outside the scope of the class also we can able to access the public methods and public functions. So anywhere we can able to access the public declared variables, methods, classes, or a data type. Okay, so here in the same program we are going to implement the public functions with the public access modifier. So for that, let me just change this private to public here. So this is my public, this is also I will make it as public. So by default, if we don't declare anything, any access modifier here, it is by default called as a private method only, or a private function only. So for to make it public, so I'm writing this keyword as public here. Okay, so now that we have declared the object here of employee here. Okay, so now let's access this public functions via this object. Let's see whether we can able to access or not. Yes, we can able to access, as you can see here. Okay, so this access modifier which we declare as I'm sorry, this public access modifier functions and methods can be accessible anywhere in the program. Okay, so now let's check the output whether we can get this output or not. For that, let me just run the program. So control F5. So as you can see friends, we got the output here as a online buff employee details as 009. So this is about the second access modifier, that is a public access modifier. Now let's go to the third access modifier, that is the protected access modifier. Let's see the protected access modifier example. So if you guys got any errors or doubts regarding this coding or program, or regarding this access modifier, do not forget to post your queries and doubts in the comment section below of this video. Definitely I am there to help you, and I am there to help you to solve your doubts and queries. So now let's get started with the protected access modifier example. So in order to declare a protected access modifiers to the methods, to the property, to the class, to the data type, we need to use the keyword as protected. Okay, so if we want to declare this method as a protected method, then we need to use the keyword as protected access modifier. We need to use the keyword as protected here. Now if we talk about the accessibility of this access modifier, then my friends, the methods which are declared as protected are accessible within the same scope of the class and as well as the derived scope of the class also. Yes my friends, in the same scope of the class we can access the protected methods. As you can see, using this keyword we can able to access the protected methods here. Okay, and to check whether we can able to access this protected methods or not in the derived class scope also, let's create a derived class here. So for that, let me create a new class here, public class special employee with a base class as employee, and here I am going to create a derived class. Yes my friends, special employee is my derived class and employee is my base class or parent class. So here I am going to create a new method, public void new method call okay. So let's check here, whether we are able to access this display employee details or not, which is declared with the protected keyword. Okay, so for this, I am going to use my this keyword here, and as you can see, I am able to access display employee details here. Yes my friends, so as you can see, as per the protected access modifier accessibility, it is clear that we can access this access modifier methods in the same scope of the class and as well as in the derived scope of the class also. So let's check the output whether we are getting this output or not. For that, I am going to create the object of this employee, special employee, and I am going to call my new method call here as my to check the output of the function. So let's run the program now. So as you can see friends, we got the output successfully here. So hence it is proved that the protected methods and protected functions are able to access in the same scope of the class and as well as in the derived scope of the class also. Okay, so now let's go to our fourth and final access modifier, that is the internal access modifier. Yes my friends, so let's get started with the last and final access modifier example also. Friends, one more point about the protected access modifier which I forgot to mention, that is we checked that display employee details is able to access in the same scope of class and as well as in the derived scope of class. Let's check whether we are able to access in the other class which is out of the scope. Out of the scope means it is not a derived class and it is also not in the same scope of class also. Let's check whether we are able to access this method in the other program class. Let's check that. For that, let me just make this as employee and again employee object and check whether we are able to access this method here or not. I'll just copy paste this. So as you can see, the notification here, it states that it is inaccessible due to the protection level. So as you can see friends, it is proved that protected access modifier is accessible only within the same scope of class or in the derived scope of class. Now let's go and jump to the final access modifier, that is internal access modifier. Let's start with the internal access modifier now. In order to declare the internal access modifier, you need to use the keyword as internal. So here I will make this as internal. Okay. So friends, if we now talk about the accessibility of this modifier, that is internal access modifier, then you can see that it is accessible within the same scope of class. As you can see, this dot, yes, it is accessible here also. Now let's check whether we can able to access in a derived class also or not. As you can see, we are successfully able to access in the derived class also. Now let's check whether we can able to access in the outside program, that is in the console program or not. As you can see, we are successfully able to access in the console program also. So it is clear that this internal access modifier is able to is accessible within the same class, in the derived class, in the class program also. So the accessibility of this modifier is simple, that it is accessible within the same namespace scope in the same assembly, but it is not accessible in the other assembly or in the other namespace scope. Okay. So if you want a method to be accessible within the same namespace, then use the internal. If you want a method to be accessible within the class, then use the private. If you want a method to be accessible within the class and also within the derived class, then use the protected. If you want a method to be accessible anywhere to the any scope of the class, then use a public access modifiers. So friends, this is all about the 4 access modifiers, that is private, public, protected and internal. So friends, till now we have completed the 4 access modifiers, that is private, public, protected and internal. Now we left with the 2 combination access modifiers, that is protected internal and private protected. So these 2 access modifier we are not going to complete in this video section, that is protected internal and private protected access modifier, but I am giving this 2 access modifier as a homework to you as a viewers, to complete this with an example step by step. If you guys get any errors or doubts or queries, feel free to contact me. I will leave my contact number and email ID in the description box below. Please check that and do contact me if you guys get any errors or doubts. So friends, this is all about access modifiers in C#. Thanks for watching this video, and if you guys are looking for any C# training or MSBI training, do contact me on this number. This is my contact number, that is 9967 590 707. So thank you very much friends. Thank you.